Hello. So I've been thinking about a lot lately, and somewhere along the way, I realized that this kind of thinking has almost become a kind of privilege these days that it's seriously gotten a bit concerning. That alone was enough to have me stressing out, leading into a small existential crisis over a few months ago. It happened on one of those nights where I just couldn't sleep from all the thoughts running through my head. It wasn't because I was doom scrolling or brain rotting myself away through countless reels. It was because of the boredom of a quiet night, which made my mind louder than the car drifting on the street outside. This happened quite often, and ironically, the video that I was about to watch was about how nobody seems to think anymore. Yet here I am, past 2 a.m., doing nothing but think. I recently stumbled upon this YouTube video that made me want to share my thoughts on the matter. The video argued that critical thinking is quietly dying off, pinning most of the blame on three things. 1. Groupthink pressuring people into conformity even when it defies logic. 2. AI and technology slowly taking over the task that we used to think through ourselves. And 3. Social media algorithms trapping us in echo chambers while feeding us a dopamine boost that kills our patience for boredom or deep focus. Ultimately, the video closed by pushing for less screen time, more tolerance for silence, and engaging with long-form content instead of short-form feeds. Simple enough advice. But let's be real. You'd probably just ignore this advice the second your phone rings and notifies. The first thing I wanted to cross off that list was social media, mostly because this exact problem was the whole reason I built my website and started a blog in the first place. See, the thing about social media is that the algorithm doesn't just happen to us. We built it. Every scroll, every pause, every reel we let autoplay into the next one, we're the ones training it. Have you ever read those types of comments on an Instagram reel that goes, "I thought my feed had betrayed me for a sec," or something like, "I've built this feed from the ground up," and people say that like it's a flex. Like being really good at feeding your own attention span into a machine is something to be proud of. But I'm not gonna lie. I caught myself doing the same thing not too long ago, scrolling through someone's mountain hike, someone's new apartment, someone's whole curated life, while I sat in the same four walls that I've been sitting in for the past months. And the worst part wasn't even jealousy. I wasn't jealous at all. It was just numbness. Like I'd seen this exact video 100 times already, just with a different face. So over time, our own accounts become the very thing that betrays us. Instead of actually talking to the people we care about, instead of actually socializing, we spiral into a pit of short-form content designed to keep us distracted from whatever's real and grounded in front of us. I guarantee you that 1 in 10 reels on your feed right now is it either an influencer or a content creator quietly setting a standard of living that you will never realistically reach. And I'm not saying that it's a you problem. I'm saying that that kind of content that keeps us doom scrolling and glued to our screens is unrealistic and unachievable for most of us unless you've got sponsors or publicity backing you up. It's not a lifestyle. It's a business model. This next part could probably be in its own post because I've got a lot of existentialism going on in this one, but let's see how far I can get. Look, I'm not anti-AI, or at least not yet. And I'm not saying that just to dodge backlash for not using it, nor am I trying to sit on the fence, but because I literally cannot even call myself anti-AI right now when I'm one of the very people using commercially available chatbots. Yeah. Every day, I try to lessen how much I lean on it, to only really use it when I desperately need to. In fact, My most recent conversation with one was asking how to improve my website's discoverability on search engines. But that's besides the point. The point is, most people can't seem to live without AI anymore, and I've genuinely seen it play out online. Have you ever heard about that Redditor who said he talks to ChatGPT in his head first thing every morning? Yeah, that's called an inner voice, genius. That's just thinking. But it kinda worries me too, because sometimes I can't gather my own thoughts anymore without leaning on it either. I do still jot things down manually, and I'm not completely hopeless. But after enough scattered notes, I can't help but to ask an LLM to organize the mess into something that makes sense. So I'm starting to think that these two problems were never really separate. The doom scrolling came first, fed me short form slop until my attention span started rotting from the inside, and now that the damage is already done, I can't think for myself without something else gathering the pieces for me, like one fed directly into the other. It's starting to feel like it's created some form of dependency that very rich people get to monopolize off of. But now I'm starting to sound like a conspiracy theorist, so let's move on. But even before any algorithm got its hands on us, there was already something else training us not to think too hard. We just didn't have a word for it yet. Groupthink, or as I like to call it, crab mentality, is the idea that the majority in a group will try to drag down anyone who tries to rise above the rest, not because that person did anything wrong, but simply because they didn't stay at everyone else's level. In my country, back when I was still a student, there was always this fear of speaking up or asking a question about a topic you didn't fully understand. Because the moment you did, the teacher would have to stop and explain it to the whole class, which meant everyone else now had to sit through it too. So they'd start looking at you like you were a sip-sip, a suck-up, or a teacher's pet. And for what? For trying to learn? For trying to think for yourself? Most of the time, that fear weighed heavier than the actual question. So the free thinkers, the genuinely curious ones, just learned to shrink themselves back down to the average, just so they wouldn't get labeled as an outcast. And it's funny how the algorithm and the AI both came decades later, but groupthink was already doing the exact same job long before either of them existed. The video says people should consume more long-form content, sit in boredom, embrace the silence, let your thoughts actually flow uninterrupted. And sure, that's not bad advice. But I don't think it's that simple, because unlearning a decade of dopamine hits doesn't just happen because a YouTube video told you to put your phone down. I don't really have a clean answer here. I still catch myself doom scrolling some nights before getting some shut-eye. I still open a chatbot more often than I'd like to admit, and I still feel that old classroom fear sometimes, the one where everyone just stares at you in disappointment. Yeah. So I guess the question isn't really whether critical thinking is dying. Maybe it's whether I'm still doing enough of it myself to even notice if it already had. Thank you for listening. And if you ever want to read or listen to more of my thoughts, check out my blog in the description below.